I'm going to be taking you through a supervision contract. So a supervision contract will be helpful for those of you who are supervisors, obviously, but even if you're a licensed professional and you know new supervisees, folks who are graduating to become associates, there is a lot of confusion. And there are good contracts and bad contracts. So I thought, well, this will be a good training today. I'm just going to take everybody through what a good contract is. If you have been in the 40-hour training before, if you've been in mine, then you probably already have this information, but now you can just check to make sure. If you did not take my 40-hour training, this is a good way to check to see if what you learned matches what I teach. And then, of course, if you know a supervisor who's like, hey, did Kate really teach on this the other day? You can say, yeah, and here it is. So this training, as all of your trainings, will go into your Kate Walker Training profile. And the way you find these replays is you go to your Start Here lesson. You click that and you will see all of the replays. And this will go under supervision, of course, because this is pretty specific to supervision. So let's dive in with screen shares, of course. And I'm going to show you a contract. So this is just a template of a contract. And it's going to, there it is. Okay. So this is part of a supervisor toolkit that I think is in your resources as a Step It Up member. If it's not, I'm happy to add that. I always find things I want to add. Somebody the other day was asking for the timeline of the rules. Like everybody sees the rules, but they don't see what was removed. So I'm happy to add that timeline because that's what I do. I keep track of this stuff. And so this is a toolkit that has a lot of great information, but one of the things that it's important for us today, and forgive the weird formatting here, but you get the idea. So the supervision contract is, first of all, number one, this is not the same thing as the agreement that your potential LPC associate must have with you in order to get their LPC associate license. That is something completely different. It's an official document. And I talk about that a little bit because supervisees who want that LPC associate license, they just want you to sign it sometimes. And if you're a Step It Up member and you're an LPC associate, you kind of know what I'm talking about here. It's like, oh, wait, I got to have this person's signature. You don't even have to have a job, but you must have a supervisor's signature before your application is considered complete and you can start uploading that thing to the BHEC website. So the contract, this that I'm showing you right now, this is actually, I think of more of an MOU or a memorandum of understanding. I don't know the legalities of it. I live in Texas, so, a handshake and that's legal. So what I'm talking about here, though, is clarifying the supervisory relationship right off the bat by explaining some very basic things. And so at the end of this training, you're going to know what I recommend goes into the contract, what I recommend does not go into the contract. And my recommendations are based on BHEC, LPC, and LMFT rules. Keeping in mind, there is no rule that states exactly what should go into a contract. So I hope that makes sense. In fact, if you take trainings from me, you know what I refer back to when I talk about the contract is something called the ACE's Best Practices for Supervision. It was a document put together between 2011 and 2014, I believe, and some magnificent minds put this together. And it's a document put out by ACES, which is a division of the American Counseling Association devoted to supervision and counselor education. That document will guide you in creating a contract. It's a very lengthy, it's very extensive document that can help you really craft a nice contract. So everything that I put into my teaching, whether it's the 40-hour training or a training like this, comes from those ACEs best practices, and of course, all the current research that we have. So what you're looking at now is super basic. Like, it's so basic that honestly, in my mind, it's kind of useless. But that's why we use it. We want you to have something to start from. Maybe you don't even remember signing your own supervision contract, however long ago that was. If you're an associate watching this training right now, of course, you just probably signed one, recently. So you have it fresh on your mind. So wherever you are on that spectrum, I want you to really weigh what you know against what I'm going to show you. So in our super basic contract, we have goals of supervision, the supervisor will, so expectations for the supervisor, the supervisee will, so expectations for the supervisee, compensation for supervision, the lengths or the breadth and depth, how confidentiality works, what to do in case of emergency, and how the contract can be terminated. So you see, super basic, so many things that are missing. And so if we go back and look here at the beginning, for example, the supervisor will provide the supervisee with supervision, either individual, triadic, or group, 1 hour a week face-to-face for an LMFT associate, 4 hours a month with LPC interns. Monitor hours, make sure that it's half group, half individual, et cetera, et cetera. And you can go back and hit pause and look at this. Same thing with supervisee, purchase malpractice insurance, learn, keep a log, be ethical. So as you go back and, you hit pause on this when you watch the replay, you'll go through and you'll say, oh yeah, these are pretty good. How can we improve on this? I'm going to tell you how we're going to improve on this. So I'm going to stop the share. And so let's talk about the first part. What should be included in a supervision contract? Now, I want you to go back to what I just said a minute ago. Your potential LPC associate needs your signature on the official paperwork before they can apply for their license. So if you decide to introduce a contract at the same time, even if you spend an hour going through it, you may not meet with that supervisee again for several months. So you would want to get this out again. But what's even better than that is to create an orientation. And that's one of the things I recommend. That's why I closed the screen with the contract. There is no point in putting any of this in a contract if you're not going to sit down with your supervisee once they officially have that LPC associate license in their hand or live on the website to go over every single one of these things and say, okay, this is what this means. This is what that means. This is why I said that. That's why I emphasize this. So one of the glaring things that we leave out on purpose in our template when we're teaching the 40-hour training, because we want folks to do some research, we want them to dive into ACEs best practices, you must put in multicultural competencies. That is it's a foundational piece. You've taught, or if you've taken any of my classes, I don't consider this like just a unit that we teach or a week that we go through. This is foundational. So the foundation of your contract must be on making sure, two parts of this, that your supervisee is multiculturally competent and that you are able to provide multiculturally competent supervision, right? Because remember, as the supervisor, you're wearing a teacher hat a lot of the time. So it's not just about clearing your lens and being aware of your implicit biases or whatever those are. It's teaching your supervisee to do the same. And since we don't know where our supervisees we don't know the programs, even if we think we do, things change over time. It's not the university that you graduated from or something like that. You have to be aware of that teacher hat when you're building your contract. Will they supervise you? Will you supervise them if they're self-employed. This has to be in your contract because it will come up. I mean, even if you say in the interview, and I have so many people tell me this, yeah, Kate, you know what? In the interview, I'm just going to say, I am not going to supervise anybody who is self-employed. Well, what if this person is like 18 months into their job? No, that's too long. Let me back it up a little bit. What if they're 6 months into their job at the agency and they hate it, but you have excellent rapport with them and you're able to really assess, maybe they seem perfect for private practice and they're like, you know what, I am dying over here seeing 500 clients a week. I would love to give private practice a try. So at least put in your contract, hard no, if you won't supervise self-employed, or if you're willing to, put down some things like, you know, I will consider supervising you in a self-employed setting if you meet these criteria, like, you know, this assessment, if I feel like you have achieved level 2 developmental stage, if you can agree to meet with me 6 hours a month instead of 4, if you can agree to let me peruse your marketing material and take my my suggestions and directives and implement them immediately, things like that. But have it in your contract whether or not you will. Sites, let's talk about sites for a minute. This actually came up, and I don't remember if this was in a presentation with one of the board members or one of the lunch and learns, but you know, the board doesn't require paperwork when your supervisees switch sites. They don't require paperwork at the end to know where their hours or which sites came from which, you know, which hours came from which sites. That's what I'm trying to say. So having said that, if a complaint comes in against your supervisee at Joe's Counseling Shack, and you're like, well, I didn't know they were seeing clients over at Joe's Counseling Shack, you know, that's not going to look good on you. So in the contract, you might want to state, look, I only want you to have 3 sites, and these sites need to be approved by me. And I will make site visits. I will lay eyes on these sites before I approve them. It's your gatekeeping function now, folks, right? BHEC, LPC, LMFT have become the laissez-faire parents, which is awesome because they want us to be adults, as we've heard at so many meetings, right? They have faith in our abilities. It's important that we create contracts and procedures and systems to do our job. And so putting the number of sites you want your supervisee to have, procedures for those sites. Remember, you're going to go over all of this again in the orientation. Your contract is a great place to put that. Will they be okay? Will you, I keep saying they, will you be okay if they're super slow collecting hours? Now we've had law changes, rule changes. Both LPC and LMFT associates only have 5 years. Like there is no renewal. If those folks can't finish the licensure requirements in 5 years, they have to reapply. Now, I don't know if they're able to apply hours. I don't know if they have to take their licensing exam. That is completely up to the boards. But I'm talking to you now, supervisor. Do you really want to take on somebody who is a part-time practitioner who tries to fit in 1 or 2 clients a week in between all of their other activities? I mean, would you want to go to a practitioner who had only seen a couple of clients a week and really never put time in a hospital to get all of the diagnoses, at least visualize them, at least be able to conceptualize them? I mean, part of getting a broad experience as a supervisee is being aware of the diagnoses. It's hard to diagnose what you've never seen or experienced. It's hard to supervise someone who only sees a particular type of diagnosis, you know, seeing the same clients week after week after week. And it's not a broad or a deep setting. I think my bias is showing right now. That's not the experience that I enjoyed supervising. So if it's something you enjoy, great. And I know life happens. You know, if folks have to take a break, LPC associates have to take a break because of life. LMFT associates, it's not clear if you get the same consideration for those kinds of breaks. But yeah, I mean, life happens. And, if it takes a longer time, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about putting into your contract, like, hey, if you're not done with this thing in 24 months, we got to talk. We've got to have a little chat about your sites, about how you're collecting direct hours. Maybe you need to add some things in because you're not getting a robust experience, something like that. Neither board, new rule, neither board requires CEs. Now, I say it's a new rule for you LMFT supervisors and associates out there. LMFT associates used to need CEs, and now they don't. LPC associates never needed CEs, but don't you still want them to have HIPAA training? Don't you still want them to understand the technology? Yeah, they came from a university, and yes, confidentiality was a class they took at one time, but you're the supervisor now. And there are some rules changing about records custodian and informed consent. So adding extra training to your contract is absolutely okay. You can require extra training for anything you want before you will supervise your supervisees. Again, you can be the CE provider if you want, because it's not officially a CE. So during the orientation, do a little training on HIPAA. During your orientation, do a training on technology. Do a training on multicultural competencies. Or tell them to go someplace else. That's okay too. You can require extra training in your contract. So when they sign that contract, this is kind of like speed dating, right? It's like, hey, okay, if you want me to be your supervisor, this is what you're going to have to do. Like I said, this is foundational. This is the foundation of the supervisory relationship. If you are a supervisor, I'm talking to you now, who still doesn't like this webcam supervision thing, I want you to picture your supervisee leaving their agency. They're running late. They're on I-45. It's raining, and they're trying to get to your office. Okay, so think for a minute if you would allow webcam supervision if they pull over safely into a parking lot, or if they're able to close the doors and find a confidential location at work. I know that's not many of us, right? Most of us are like, heck yes, webcam supervision. It's allowed by the rules. Again, LPC and LMFT, there are no limits on webcam supervision. LMFT just has limits on telephone supervision. So this is one of those rules you get to make, supervisor. And I encourage you to think about that supervisee who may be running late or who can't get out of their office because they were asked to pull double duty somewhere. The late cancel no-show policy. Even if supervising is part of your work at your agency and you're not getting paid for it, right? Because if it's part of your job, you can't get paid also by your supervisee, right? You can't double dip. I still encourage you to include a late cancel no-show policy. Your time is important. This is your license. The supervisor designation belongs to you. If the agency says, hey, I want you to supervise Janie over here, and you're like, oh, okay, that's fine. She seems nice enough. You show her the contract, and you make sure that she sees if she late cancels you or no shows, there will be consequences. Now, when it's not financial, right, you can't charge them at the agency. You can go to the person who assigned Janie to you and say, yeah, Janie and I are done. I'm not going to supervise her because she's no-showed me twice. And my policy and my contract is, I don't supervise people who no-show me. Well, guess what? Janie can't see clients. If Janie is not under supervision, she cannot see clients. So that is a huge consequence. Put that in your contract. That's okay. That's reasonable. You communicate starting with that contract. Hey, Janie, before you sign this, I want you to make sure you're looking here at my late cancel no-show policy. Yes, I know we all work for Joe's Counseling Shack and they pay me to supervise you. You need to understand, though, if you late cancel or no-show me more than 2 times, that I'm going to cut you from my roster and you won't be able to see clients here. right? Show that again in your orientation. Make sure that your supervisees understand that just because it's a perk of the job, your time is still valuable. All right. Now, just a couple of things. We have a couple of minutes left before I take questions. What should not be included in a clinical supervision contract? Anything to do with employment, right? Your clinical supervision contract is just that. It's a clinical document. It needs to include things having to do with this very safe space where you want your supervisees to open up and tell you about the things they're struggling with. If you start talking about things like their parking spot or their split that they're going to get if they see 10 clients versus the split they're going to get if they see 20 clients, that is not clinical, right? You need to put that in another document called an orientation or policy and procedures, or I don't know, the non-clinical document. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. If it's related to administrative supervision, create a separate document. That tells this brand new person right from the get-go, you are going to do your very best to separate clinical supervision from administrative supervision, especially if it's just you. If it's a small practice and you are in both roles, it is so important for you to start at the very beginning, dividing those roles, making sure your supervisee understands that they can tell you anything over here, and it isn't going to affect their next raise or their next promotion. If they're struggling with imposter syndrome over here and anxiety, that doesn't mean that you're going to cut their client load or take away their parking spot. Okay? Keep those things separate. All right. So this has been about a great supervision contract, what to put in it, what to leave out. If I will check our Step It Up resources, and I will make sure that I put the supervisor toolkit in there that has not only a template, just a template of the supervision contract. It also has a sample release of information, which I highly encourage you to talk to your potential supervisees, references, former professors, former supervisors, all that. All right, let's open it up for questions. And on that note, I will hit the pause button on the recording, which just in time, because I think an ambulance is about to drive by my house. So I'm going to hit stop on the recording and open it up for questions. All right, any questions? And I will try to keep an eye over here on the Facebook page as well. Are we good?
I just want to say I love this new time.
Oh, good. I thought this might be good, right? Because it's kind of a lunchtime. I thought people could take a lunch break.
Yes, it works for me.
Yay. Well, hopefully we'll get the word out and it'll be better than that 10 a.m. 10 a.m. was just, I know that was hard on people.
Yeah, it just didn't work.
So. Well, good. I'm glad you're here.
And I appreciate all your information and all of the stuff that's in my Step It Up thing. I just need to get on it and get it done.
That's all right. It's there for you. It's not going to go stale. I'm not taking it away. It's there for it when or there for you when you're ready.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's it then. I don't see any questions in the thread. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys. And if you're watching on the replay, just tag me in the thread and I'll answer your questions. Bye.
Bye.